Many people are asking about the 15th Shaban night and fasting. This is why I decided to make this video. The content of this video contains the summary or research by one of the famous Islamic scholars. The night of 15th Shaban is commonly known as SHAB E-BARAT. This name is not narrated in any of the hadith. This is why Arab calls this night as half of Shaban night. Anyways, maybe someone has named it as SHAB E-BARAT because there is a concept that the Lord Almighty blesses pious people by giving them relief from hellfire. But in this night what happens? What people do and what is the substantiality of this night is? I will tell you in a sequence. In this concept, some of the things are completely baseless. For example, distributing sweets, taking a shower, getting dressed up and wearing new garments. I will explain these two things first. In Islam, there is no concept of evening festivals and celebrations. Eid al-Fitr and Eid al-Adha are celebrated during daytime. These are the two ceremonies that Muslims celebrate, but only in the daytime. Non-Muslims usually celebrate their ceremonies at night time. For example, Christmas Eve, New Year Eve and so on. The reason the Lord Almighty has given ceremonies to Muslims to celebrate in the daytime is due to the fact that the night is made either for taking a rest or to offer prayers. Celebrating ceremonies at night time usually leads to the people getting more attracted towards the evil deeds. Whereabout, Eid al-Fitr begins by offering 2 units of prayer in the masjid early morning. Some people claim that they do not consider SHAB E-BARAT as a ceremonial night. But their actions speak louder than words. If we start to do something which is done in festivals or ceremonies, then it is considered as a ceremony even if we deny it. Because you are considering that day a special one. Taking a shower, getting dressed up, cooking food and distributing it, especially the sweets, all these activities are done in festivals or ceremonies. For example, on Eid al-Fitr day, Muslims prepare different sweet dishes and distribute it. They also dress up nicely and wear new garments. So those people who take a shower, dress up nicely, make sweet dishes and distribute them, especially at the night of 15th Shaban, even if they deny that they are not celebrating it, their actions show that they are doing so. Although there is no authentic proof that it is a ceremonial night, not at least in my knowledge, there is a possibility that someone has made up a fake narration. There is not even a single narration by Prophet Muhammad where he ordered to take a shower, dress up nicely and make food and distribute it, especially at this night. So, for the sake of Lord Almighty, do not celebrate this night, as it is considered as an addition to religion, which is prohibited and has a severe punishment in Islam. In Islam, ceremonies are celebrated at the daytime. On Eid al-Adha day, Muslims wake up early morning, take a shower, dress up nicely, offer pray, prepare sweets and distribute them. At night, either you should sleep and take a rest, or pray to Lord Almighty, individually. This was the first thing which I wanted to address. The second concept is to go to the graveyard in this night. There is a very popular narration that Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, got up at night. Hazrat Aisha followed him. He went to the graveyard called Jannat al-Baqi, prayed for the forgiveness of the people and came back home. This narration has weakly authenticated chains of narrations. And if we assume for a while that this is not a weak narration, none of the companion of the Prophet has narrated about this, that he went to the graveyard at night. My question is, what kind of sunnah is this, which the companion of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, did not understand, but we understood it? It is not possible that there would be a beneficial deed in Islam and the companions of the Prophet did not do it, or ignored it. If going to the graveyard at 15th Shaban night would have been a sunnah, the companions of the Prophet definitely would have done it. Whereas we see that none of the companion went to the graveyard at that night. Let us assume that it is a true narration and Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, did go to the graveyard at that night. though none of the companions of the Prophet understood this, but we did. The question arises, is it not compulsory to follow the Prophet in the same manner just like he did the action? For example, the Prophet Muhammad offered 2 units of prayer in the Fajr, Farz prayer. If you will offer 3 units, would that be acceptable by the Lord Almighty? The answer is no. Because the way of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, is the criteria in front of the God. So if we assume that this hadith is authentic, that the Prophet went to the graveyard at night, we need to follow it the same way. He went there only once in a lifetime. Secondly, he did not gather people, he went silently, and returned back home. So if you are to follow this sunnah, then you should go to the graveyard at night all alone, and silently. Then, we can say that you are really following the sunnah. But what happening is, some Muslims celebrate this night every year, like a festival. There are food stalls, flower shops and whatnot. Please stop all of this. Trust me. You do not want to be amongst those people. My request is not to go to the graveyard, especially at that night. Just stay home and pray for your loved ones, who has passed away, from home. But if you must, then select an isolated graveyard and visit it silently, and come back. The third thing is, was the Quran sent down in this night, and is the future of a person decided in this night? The Lord Almighty has very clearly highlighted this in 2 places in the Quran, in chapter Dukhan, that we have sent down this book in a blessed night, and the decisions full of wisdom are taken in this night. At the second place in the Quran, in chapter Qadr, the God said, we have sent down the Quran in the night of Qadr. After that, Lord has mentioned that the angels descend, carrying all kind of decisions. So the Lord Almighty has very clearly mentioned the name of the night, Qadr, in which the decisions are made for 1 year, and the Quran was sent down. Which means, it is the same night, not 2 separate nights. After such clarity from the Lord Almighty, we should not say otherwise. Some people ask, what difference does it make if we say that the Quran was sent down on 15th Shaban, SHAB E-BARAT? The answer is that this claim devalues the night of Qadr. Whereabout the Lord Almighty has increased the value of it by saying that, in this night, the decisions for the whole year are taken and given to the angels, who then bring the decisions down. And the process of sending down the Quran begun in this night. If the Lord Almighty has given the protocol to the night of Qadr, then we should not give the same protocol to the other night. So, these are the 3 false arguments. The first was taking a shower, and distribution of sweets. Second was to go to the graveyard at that night. And the third was that the Quran began to come down in this night, and the decisions for whole year are taken in the night of 15th Shaban, also known as SHAB E-BARAT. The fourth question is there any sort of benefit of prayers at this night, at all? The answer is, there is a debate on this matter amongst the Islamic scholars, because there are numerous narrations which have weakly authenticated chain of narration about the benefit of offering prayers at this night. However, all the Islamic scholars agree that there is not even a single authentic narration about this night being valuable. However, the unauthentic narrations are so many in number that they have reached to the level of acceptability. There are 2 groups of respected and well-reputed Islamic scholars. One of them says, because the number of unauthentic narrations is huge, that is why we can accept the claim that prayers in this night are more valuable than the prayers in the ordinary nights. Basically, they go by the rule of acceptance of narrations. The second group that completely rejects the value of this night claims that they are some facts which proves there is no value of this night. What are those facts? The first argument which they give is, the narrations about the value of this night are over-exaggerated. And when so much exaggeration is there about something, it leads to disbelief in it. Though this argument is not that strong, but this is what some of the scholars say. The second argument which they give is, whenever the Lord Almighty has selected a specific time or night, with a higher value, He has always kept it ambiguous, to make it more exciting and challenging. This is why the person who achieves it gets big rewards. For example, in one of the narrations, it is said on Fridays there's a specific time in which the prayers are answered, but that time is kept unknown by the Lord Almighty. Obviously, that time is valuable. That is why scholars debate on that. Some scholars says that time is the gap between the two speeches, while others say it is after the Asr prayer. Then, the Quran has mentioned about the value of the night of Qadr, plus there are numerous narrations about it too. But which one is the night of Qadr? The Lord Almighty kept it ambiguous. Whereabout, if the night of 15th Shaban is so valuable, then why there is no ambiguity in the timings or date? Apparently, the Lord Almighty should have made it the same way, as He has done with the other valuable days or times. This is why it seems against the nature of the Lord Almighty. The scholar says the wisdom behind keeping the night of Qadr ambiguous is, if the rewards are big, then the punishment would have been a severe one too. For the wrongdoers, at least, they have an excuse that they did not know while doing a bad deed, that it was the night of Qadr, as it is unknown. One more wisdom is, the deserving people will get it, as they will strive to find it, in all last 10 days of Ramadan. If the Lord Almighty would have disclosed it, even the non-deserving people might have gotten the benefits of the night of Qadr. So, these are the views of the two groups of Islamic scholars on the value of the 15th Shaban night, also known as SHAB E-BARAT. The conclusion is, you can follow either of the two groups of the Islamic scholars. However, you must respect the other opinion, as both the sides have solid arguments. But both the sides of scholars agree that you cannot go to the masjid in groups and perform certain type of units of prayers, with specific chapters of Quran in each unit of prayer. That would be considered as addition in Islam, which is strictly prohibited by the Lord Almighty. Basically, you have only one option: you need to pray the same way you pray in the normal nights, individually. You can recite Quran, ask Allah for guidance, offer as much units as you can of prayers, and then hope that the Lord Almighty will accept your efforts, as you are following the scholars. May the Lord Almighty guide us to the straight path, like He did to His prophets. Ameen.